Welcome to day 5 of the WTA Finals live stream with Control the Controllables. And hope everyone's well. And finally, we've got some matches that have started after all of these days of talking and going to football matches and going to players' parties. We finally have some tennis started, and it started very well. Some entertaining matches from the little bit that I've seen. I have to admit I've not watched so much today as we're preparing Gabby and Erin to start tomorrow. But at this point, I'm hoping I'm going to say a big welcome to Candy Reid, who's joining me. Candy, can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, Dan. Kiernan, how are you?
I can't hear you. So
Ah,
what is that? Is that Candy? I can see Candy. So anyone's on YouTube, you can Candy give people a wave and people know that you're there. But for some reason, the volume's not coming through yet. But as just a couple of things before we get Candy on, I'm sitting here actually. I'm watching. Not that my wife arrived last night, so she's not overly happy that I'm watching it. But I've been watching Ostapenko and Kitchenok taking the first set against Taylor Townsend and Siniakova. Obviously, a bit of a popcorn matchup in the first round, in this round robin format that brings it up, and that's currently one set to the U.S. Open champions over the Wimbledon champions. And we'll see how that one goes. Candy, whenever you're ready to shout in, just keep giving us a go, and I'll see if I pick you up on the volume. I'm not getting you. I'm not getting you.
try that. How's that? Can you hear me
Not.
now?
I'm not picking you up. Let's see.
I've changed something, so I think it's going to work now.
This is the beauty of live streams is exactly this. We think that we might be picking things up, but we're not. And this is the rawness of a live stream. This is what happens. So we might. I don't know, Candy. Maybe you sign out and sign back in, and we'll give that a go.
We'll do. I'll be back in a
On the
minute.
stream. Okay, so I'm hearing that on the stream that both people are being heard.
Oh,
So
that's
can
great.
do you know what? Uh, should I admit this, or should I
Can
pretend
you
that
hear
I
me?
Candy?
Pretend.
Should I
It's always
pretend?
better. We'll
I'll
believe
pret-
you.
I'll pretend that I didn't have the mute button pressed on my laptop.
You're a professional, Dan Kiernan. That's what we love about you.
So Candy, you're here. The suspense, we built it. We built the suspense, and you're joining me
Yeah.
again. But this time it's live, so we have to be careful what we say when it's live.
I feel a little bit like Taylor Swift on the Eras tour, as she calls it. It was a big introduction.
But
Hopefully,
it's
we'll
it's
get the
good
same
to.
numbers as she does.
Well, there's been millions following this, but there's certainly, bit by bit, people have been enjoying them. We've had some nice guests so far. We're keeping them short and sweet, and we get your amazing knowledge. I know you've been watching ATP tennis this week, but I'm going to kind of bring your mind to Riyadh. I'm going to bring your mind to the WTA finals, and a little bit of a review of day one. I know we haven't quite finished day one, and then also a little preview as we go into day two, which obviously the second group will be starting. And just before I bring you in, Candy, anyone that is listening in live, please do send your questions in for myself and Candy, but especially Candy. You get me every night, so when we have Candy, let's make sure that we put her to good use and ask those questions. Have you watched any of the tennis today?
I have. I've seen Sabalenka beating Zhang, and I've just seen, and I didn't watch any of this, but I've just seen the score of the latest result. Paulini has beaten Rabakina. So, Purple Group, day one, done.
And results that you expected?
The Paulini Rabakina one was a bit of an unknown quantity, wasn't it? Because we haven't seen Rabakina for ages. We now know, Dan, breaking news if you haven't heard this, that she is going to be coached by Goran Ivanisevic in 2025, which is rather exciting for,
It
I'm
is.
sure, reasons that we'll talk about. But it just been, we didn't know about Rabakina. I actually did her match I think it was in Cincinnati, right before the US Open, where she played Leila Annie Fernandez, and it was awful. It was absolutely awful. We commentated on it. It looked like she didn't want to be there. She'd split up with Stefanov Vukov, and we'd known a little bit about that relationship, hadn't we? That it was a little bit toxic, according to some. I hadn't seen that for myself, so I'm just telling you what I've heard. He obviously brought her from, the beginning in WTA right up to top 5 in the world. But I spoke to a lot of coaches, Stan, and I'd love your thoughts on this. But the people I spoke to said pretty much anyone, because of her talent level and her ability, could have got her to top 10. And of course, it's hard staying there. And maybe that's a little bit of a generalization, because anyone isn't anybody in coaching. You know how difficult it is. But yeah, I'm really interested by that split with Vukov and then the introduction of Ivan Isavic. So I wasn't sure whether she would beat Paulini or the other way around. But the Sabalenka one, I think, was pretty much assured, even though Zhang Qinwen, as we know, has had a fantastic season. But Sabalenka has never lost to the Belarusian.
And in terms, I don't know where to start, because you've just summed it all up.
So that's it. We're done.
This is the CNN in you. You had a minute and a half. So this is control the controllables. We can talk a little more. We don't have to be so concise. But yeah, I think a couple of things to pick up on your first little question there. And once again, you always do this to me. You flip the interview, which I like. You allow me to talk as well, which is always
well, you're
nice.
kind of the expert, Dan, because you are actually out there. And by the way, Gabby and Erin looked fantastic in those pictures, so you've got to tell us all about that as well.
Yeah, well, the last couple of days we've been talking about that, and that was incredible. And you know what, they all did, and I think they were all very excited to get dressed up. It was an event. It was like, this event's been going on a while. I've heard a lot of dress talk for a few weeks now. Never mind shoe talk. Never mind going off in a taxi at the last minute the night before to get the dress from the tailor, because we had to take the dress in for Erin, and it was 45 minutes across town. And yeah, some people think I'm a tennis coach, but I've been a lot more than that with the WTA shoot coming up, I can tell you. So that was an experience. In terms of Rybakina, I picked that result today, actually, and the reason I picked that result was, this is a bit random. I'm about to bring Dan Evans into this, but Dan Evans said to me on the podcast about 3 years ago, and any British players will know this. Outside of Britain, you might go, what are you going on about? There's a British tour, which is a money event in Hallamshire, Sheffield, at the end of the year, start of the year, every year. I don't know if it still happens. And it always then used to follow 3 or 4 futures events at the start of the year. And what Dan Evans said to me on the podcast is, he said, whoever wins the Hallamshire British Tour, regardless of their ranking, is the favourite to then go and win the futures. Okay. And the point he was making is there is no replica of matches and winning matches.
Correct.
And Rybakina has not played a match since, I believe, August 27th, something along the lines
US Open.
where she withdrew as well. And again, I don't know the ins and outs of what's happened, but there's clearly been a challenging period in her career with what's happened in this moment. And I just found it really hard to believe, as good as she is, that she was going to turn up 10 weeks later playing against a player that is as 40 and 18 on the year. I know Rybakina is even better than that, but in terms of she's continued playing, Paulini has had this incredible 12 months. Paulini, I've been watching on the practice courts. She brings joy. She brings enthusiasm. She doesn't look tired, and she's been playing singles and doubles to the latter stages of nearly every event, and she just looks like she's just loving this right now, and I just thought that would give her the edge today, and obviously that's what we've seen. I thought the Sabalenka one was interesting, because I actually picked Iga to win this week. Now, I don't know if that was me trying to be different, maybe, because who I had on.
You've actually just sort of counteracted your initial thought, haven't you? That we haven't seen
Yes,
Iga out for a long
and
time. She's got a new
exactly.
coach.
She has. And my thought behind that, Candy, was I think Iga will find her way to the semis.
Yes, fair point.
So, and that's the beauty, I guess, of this round robin format. And I think if Iga finds a way to the semis and Sabalenka does, which I think they both will, and I think the motivation's high, world number one, end of year is on the line here. Not to mention $5.2 million.
That little detail.
And I was a little bit worried that Sabalenka was a little bit overplayed. I think she's done a lot. She's played a lot. She's done a lot in Asia. And yeah, my concern and what I said the other night was because of the shortness of this event. So let's take, if you're starting on Sunday, you're down then to potentially play 5 matches in 6-7 days, which a lot of these players aren't used to. And I just wonder if maybe fatigue comes into it towards the latter stages of this event. I believe it did in Cancun, and there was other reasons for that, I think, that added to it. But I do think mental fatigue played into that event last year, and I think Iga will be fresh when we get to the nut and bolt of this event. However, since then I've spent more time on the courts, and they're a bit quicker than I realised.
Which is perfect for Sabalenka.
Yeah, she was saying the other day that it's not her favourite playing on quick stuff, but it gets up in here, but it also skids through. And I just saw a few of the highlights, and I was like, oh my God, she is hitting the cover off the ball, like absolutely hitting the cover off the ball. And I can see her exposing your Coco Gauffs, your Iga Swiatek's a little bit on this surface. So it seemed like a fairly routine match. Sabalenka, what did you make of it? Was it as routine as it looked? Did Young get a look in?
I've just written a few of the numbers down. Sabalenka won 30 out of 33 first service points. Success rate of 91% behind her first serve. Had one break point against, saved it, broke her opponent twice. When we know from the numbers, when Zhang Qinwen lands her first serve, she wins more first serve points than anyone else on the WTA tour. Today she didn't. And she served pretty well, but Sabalenka just has her number 5-0 in the head-to-head. It's just a bad matchup, it seems, for Zhang, because, again, you know all about matchups. It's something, actually, I asked Alex de Minaur earlier this year in Acapulco. I think he'd lost to somebody, I think it was Stefanos Tsitsipas, if I remember rightly. I might be wrong there. But we spoke about it because he finally found a way to beat Tsitsipas. And he said so much about tennis is about the matchups rather than, whether you're better or the other. It's just how your game works, isn't it? I think Sabalenka just believes every time that she walks on court against Zhang that she's going to win. And I think Zhang intimidates others a little bit. But she has got that sort of chutzpah, hasn't she? She's got that je ne sais quoi, as they say in France, that sort of makes people a little bit on edge. They don't really like playing her. And she's so up and down a little bit, isn't she? Where she can just spring a few unbelievable shots and then go slightly off the boil. You don't know what's coming. But she's also frightened of no one except for Sabalenka. I just thought Sabalenka was absolutely class. She's won 21 of her last 22 matches. She is so motivated to finish year-end number 1. She's going to do it. Mark my words, Dan Kiernan.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be going against her. I certainly won't. But so tell me, before we move on to tomorrow, who comes out of that group? Now that we've had the first matches, which 2 players, I think we can safely say Sabalenka, we believe, will come out of that group. Yeah. So who's going to join her in the semi-finals?
Zhang Qinwen. Big statement, because now, of course, she's got to win the next 2. But I think Paulina, absolutely love her. I absolutely believe everything you just said about her bounceability and excitement. And I think she's just fantastic for the tour. She's a breath of fresh air. A small 5'4" Italian who's bubbly and excitable and has this explosive game. And I have to say, I watched her at the Paris Olympics this year because it was my first Olympics on site. And I went and watched her closely, and she's hitting the ball at least 5 miles an hour harder than she was at this time last year. She's hitting the ball so hard, and of course she's got that massive rotation, hasn't she? She's got a lot of spin. She hits a nice shape on her ball, but she's now added a little bit of extra power. She's got great hand skills. The only player playing singles and doubles, correct me if I'm wrong, which is quite an achievement to get into the top 8, and also won gold medal in the doubles in the Olympics.
Yep.
So now Sara Rani, her partner, has the Golden Slam, which we don't really talk about because it's doubles, but I know you as a doubles coach at the moment, that's a big deal. But Paulina is brilliant for the game, but I just think the court surface will suit Zhang against her. And as you said, I think Rybakina's a little bit undercooked. I still think that she could probably win a match here. I think she'll take Sabalenka close just because of the way she plays and her game style. But I think, yes, Rybakina and Zhang, if I had to guess, will come out of the purple group.
Sabalenka.
What did I say? Sabalenka, Zhang, sorry. Thank you for
I'm with you. I am with you. Before we move on, because doubles, I'm not going to jump in too much on the doubles, other than because time is of an essence this evening. But we had an interesting matchup earlier today. We had Melakar and Perez against Su Wei and Mertens, and ironically, the same thing's happening right now. I've just checked the score, and it's 6-2 one way, 4-1 the other. And that's what happened today. It was a 6-1 one way, 6-1 the other. I think we're going to see a lot of match tie breaks in the doubles event these next few days. You know, a lot's going to come down to that. Su Wei, I mean, what an incredible career she's put together.
She's my favourite to watch.
Oh my goodness!
It's bonkers.
It really is. And the interesting thing there is her and Mertens aren't playing together next year, so they stopped playing at US Open, and then they've kind of come together for this one event. And I don't believe Melakar Perez are also playing next year.
Mertens has been through a lot of doubles partners, hasn't she? I think people find it hard to play with her. I've spoken to her a few times, and I really like Elise. We mostly speak about dogs, which is the reason I think we like each other, because I love dogs as much as she does. She actually announced on social media that I think one of her first dogs that she adopted had to be put down recently. So
I don't care.
Really sad. It'd be interesting to see who both of them team up with, because Su Wei Shea needs a certain player to play with her, doesn't she? In my mind, she needs somebody to do the hard work from the baseline, a bit like last year at Roland Garros when her and Wang Jinyu won the title together. And she needs a Jan Zielinski to kind of do the power stuff in mixed doubles. So she can't have anyone who's as much a volleyer as she is, which would probably put Ellen Perez out of that relationship. So Melakar Martinez might be better, but I don't know if they're going to then join up. But again, Dan Kinnan, you're the doubles guy. Maybe you know what's going on.
I don't know for sure. I've heard a couple of things. I'll maybe save it for the next few days. It's maybe not my place, but I do know that they're not playing together. I also do know that Melakar and Perez played a fantastic tiebreak today, and I tip my hat to them. You know, they have definitely been struggling as of late, but again, motivation was high. They came out firing. You get momentum, you get a nice energy going, and they found it at the right time. And we will see how the next one goes. But moving into tomorrow, first match up, we have Dabrowski Routliffe taking on Chan Kudermetova. The team that they lost to in the quarterfinals at the US Open. So that's going to be interesting. I'm sure both teams are very much motivated to go and try and start off. Yeah, that round robin, that first match feels important.
Yes, absolutely. I think your girls probably should win that. Like you said, it's probably going to go to a match tiebreaker. I find Veronika Kudermetova very interesting. We actually had Vladimir Platinik, her former coach, on our podcast, Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach, quick plug. And I think he's one of the best in the game. And he was on her bag when she won Charleston, her first singles title. And I think that's what Veronika Kudermetova needs in singles. She needs someone along with her husband, Sergey. But obviously doing the biz in doubles just hasn't had a great singles year.
No, but has a big game. It's but as do most, right? It's not enough.
Yes.
It's not enough to just strike the ball well anymore. So that'll be the doubles to get us going. And then we have Iga Swiatek against Wimbledon champion Krejcikova, who has won one match, I believe, outside of the Olympics, or one WTA match since Wimbledon.
Yeah.
She didn't win a whole lot before Wimbledon. I think she's 19 and 14 on the year. She's had this kind of, yeah, like I know she put a few wins together at Australian Open, and then that didn't quite happen. She's gone and won Wimbledon from somewhere. I don't think she knows where she won that from. And then it's dropped off a little bit of a cliff again. And as you say now, Iga, this is maybe the time to play Iga. First match since US Open. How do you see this one lining up?
Not going so well for Bara. Bara Krejcikova actually did her match in Ningbo when she retired with injury. Now, perhaps she wouldn't have retired had she not been playing in the season ender, but she had that in her sights. And of course, we must say that she qualified courtesy of her Wimbledon win, didn't we, and a ranking in between 8 and 20, because Emma Navarro was the person in the 8th spot, so she'll be mightily disappointed not to get there. But Krejcikova is so streaky. But having said that, I think it will be a straight sets win for Iga. Krejcikova is one of those players that you just never know. She's won 2 major titles now, that Wimbledon Championship, as you came from nowhere. She's got beautiful timing, doesn't she? To me, she's got top 5 timing and just this lovely sort of flowing game. But I think a lot of it is how interested is she? How much intensity is she working with? I heard, and I don't know if this is a rumour, but the reason that Siniakova and Krejcikova split was because Siniakova was a little bit more intense and Krejcikova wasn't showing that intenseness and putting the hard yards in. I don't know if that's true, but that was the rumour I heard. And I think Krejcikova, even though she loves her tennis and obviously plays very well, perhaps also just likes to chill a little bit. She's pretty relaxed personality, but I do see a win. Take a look. To me, and again, I'm not out there, you are, Dan, but to me, from the pictures, the video, everything I've seen, she looks very, very relaxed. And perhaps, it's a beginning with Wim Fissette as her coach. I have to say, and I said it on your podcast, that I thought she should have gone with Craig Tyser. I don't even know if he got the call. Ash Barty's former coach, I think that was a match made in heaven. Wim Fissette has had a mixed record. Obviously, he's, won at majors with several players, including most recently Naomi Osaka. But so interested in how Swiatek comes out.
I'm with you, but I think that's a 3-setter. I can see Barbora taking a set tomorrow. I actually, funnily enough, think this suits her out here. I think if she does get going and maybe she catches Iga a little bit cold, I can maybe see her taking the first set, and then I think Iga's intensity. I watched her practice yesterday. Whoa, she's just like she's the female Rafael Nadal is what I'm seeing.
Yes.
Every time I'm watching her, more and more I see the kind of Rafa-esque way that she has on the court. The intensity she brings, the little quirks that she has, the focus. So she seems ready.
Footwork. She moves like Sinner, because Sinner's got, in my opinion, the best footwork on the ATP tour. She's got the best footwork on the WTA tour.
Absolutely. So and then we've got our 2 Americans. It's a big few days in America with the old election that's going on over there right now, and I don't know how much people are going to be looking at the WTA finals at 2 of their own in Coco Gauff and Jess Pegula, and that's our second singles match of the day. Where do we see that one going?
Well, Pegula leads the head-to-head 4-1, 3-0 on hard courts. I actually did the Berlin final. Berlin, was it quarters or semis? Maybe quarters, sorry. Jessie Pegula won the title, saved 5 championship points against Anna Kalinskaya. That was a return to tennis for Pegula, because of course she'd been injured, hadn't she, and missed the whole clay season. So she played Coco Gauff in that tournament and won in 2 tight sets. They obviously know each other unbelievably well. They played doubles together for several years. That is since finished. I think Coco Gauff really wanted to concentrate on singles more than doubles. So no surprises at all. I just think Pegula has maybe the mental edge in this matchup, although, Coco Gauff said there's none of that, we're friends, but of course we want to go on and beat each other on court. I think the court surface will suit Pegula. I'm a big fan of Mark Merklein. I actually sat with him in Beijing. I think I told you this, Dan. And we sat and watched Yannick Sinner. We were on the front row, and I absolutely think that guy is class, really class. Like a really genuinely nice guy. So she's added
He's not here. He's
Say
not.
again?
He's not here. He's not here. Mark Knowles is.
Mark Knowles is here. So Mark Knowles is taking over. Mark Merkline's taking a back seat. And
Yeah,
we know Coco Gauff has a new coach.
they take their time. Yeah, she
Yes.
does.
And that one is interesting because I watched her practice a lot in Berlin. They were almost entirely concentrating on her serve. She went on to win the tournament, didn't she, Coco Gauff, in Beijing? And apparently she's tweaking her grip, her service grip. No mention of the forehand, but the serve grip has been tweaked. So I'd be interested to see how she comes out. If I had to put money on it, I would put money on Pegula, but that one could be close. 3 sets.
Again, you're mirroring my exact thoughts, Candy. Great minds, and I think there's definitely worth mentioning
minds, as the case may be.
is that big sis, little sis. I think there's definitely a little something there. I think from a tactical standpoint, we're going to be looking at Coco Gauff. I did an ultimate WTA finals player yesterday, and I spoke about this, and I gave Coco off the backhand, and I know there's a lot of great backhands out there.
Oh yes,
but
I agree.
But when the ball goes on her backhand, it's almost good night, And Jess Pegula, as much as they seem to have a lovely relationship off the court, Jess Pegula is wanting to bring in forehand battles all day long, and
Definitely.
That's not a battle that Coco's going to win. Whereas Coco's going to be wanting to change that and bring it into more of the backhand battle, and I think that's going to be a one to really look out for. I think Jess's second serve is, as we saw in the US Open final, she doesn't win enough. I think she won maybe 28% of points in the US Open final on the second serve. Coco's obviously going to be going after that big time, and I think it goes without saying the last match Coco played, she served 21 double faults in a 6-4 in the third loss to Aryna Sabalenka. So I think there's lots of little tactical storylines in there, which makes me think maybe this comes down to the mental battle, and maybe we're looking at a Pegula win. A tight Pegula match in maybe 3 sets again, and that maybe leads us into thinking both of us that Iga and Jess are going to come out of that group.
That's how I'd go, I think, and I'm not sure quite how it's going to go. If it's going to be Iga first, Pegula second, or the vice versa. That one's a tricky one out of the orange group. It's interesting, isn't it, how the groups have been thrown up, that you've got 3 huge servers in the purple group and sort of the movers, the strategic players in the other group, with Paolini
Absolutely.
sort of in the wrong group almost.
Yeah. What without fail it's throwing up is great matches, and our last match will be Caroline Dolehide and Desiree Kravchuk against, as you say, the Golden Slam winner in Sara Errani, who, wow, I mean, she seems to have sorted the serve now to the point where it's starting the point. She's had the problems over the years. She has an incredible brain, an incredible touch out there on the court. And then she's alongside what seems like her best friend. They're inseparable there. And you know what's been really interesting to me, Candy, is Paolini has trained as much doubles this week than she has singles.
Love that.
And she's out there and she's working on it, and she's significantly improved her game at the net. She's moving, she's working on poaching. These are things that were not in her tennis vocabulary 12 months ago.
Tell me if I'm wrong, Dan, but that is so good, isn't it? I mean,
it's amazing.
How much benefit do you get from playing doubles? You've got pressure hitting that return into certain slots. You've got to make first serves. You've got to be accurate at the first serve. You've got to be a great mover. You've got to be a communicator. Doubles is so much more fun than singles. So when you go on court, it's joyous, isn't it? And as you said, they get on so well. Everything is a plus. I wish more singles players would play doubles too.
Yeah, well, we saw Aryna Sabalenka do it not so long ago. She was playing with Mertens. It was kind of the start for her. Obviously Jess Pegula has put a lot into that over the last 2 or 3 years. Coco Gauff loves playing doubles. She's out there. So I think on the women's too, we see it a little bit more. Well, we certainly see it a lot more than the men's. But that will be an interesting one. So that leaves me to say, and we're not going to have time for questions tonight because we've almost hit the 30-minute mark. Your pick for the title, you've said it already.
Easy. Aryna Sabalenka. Boom.
And your pick for the doubles title. I don't want any of this. Like, oh, I'm speaking to Dan. I want you to go in your heart, what you see, your expertise. Because if we take form, you're not saying Dabrowski Routliffe. You know, I believe they have a strong chance, and we'll be doing all we can. But on
Yeah.
form, I'm not sure that's the names that would jump to your head. So, who are you picking for the doubles title?
Either, I'm going to go for two if I may. Dabrowski Routliffe, because I think they're going to like the surface. Dollar Hyde Kravs, I think. One of those pairs.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Candy, thank you for joining me, and all of the millions on YouTube that have come in. This also goes out as a little podcast as well tomorrow, where lots and lots of people are picking them up. And a big thank you to everyone for joining. Any questions that have come in tonight that we haven't got to, we will also be looking to answer those over the next couple of days as well. And we will be back again 8 p.m. UK time, 9 p.m. Central European time, 11 p.m. Saudi time. And I haven't quite got this with the clocks changing, but it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon if you're in America. So we will see you again tomorrow. But until next time, I'm Dan Kiernan, and we are Control the Controllables. Thank you.
Well done, Dan. Good stuff.
Right, we're off, I think.
Yes, we are.